Hey, it's United Green Podcast. Mike back again with Sam Minton. How you doing, Sammy?
Doing good, doing good. Summer is coming to a close, getting a little chilly out there, but happy to relive some great summer memories with our guests.
Yeah, it's gonna be a pretty awesome conversation. I've tentatively named the podcast Wonderboy, so we'll see where that lands us. But I also have to introduce our returning champion, returning back to the podcast after a short absence. Tyson, returning champion, man with beards for days. How's it going, man? Oh,
Oh,
you're
he got the
muted.
mute. He
No,
got
no.
muted.
Hold on now. I it has been a rough couple of weeks. I am finally over that kidney stone that I had when we recorded that pod with David Goss, but it has been a medical cluster over here. But I am back. I'm in fighting form again. Bring on the cool weather. Yes, the summer is wonderful, but give me those crisp Vermont fall days.
I don't disagree, man. I my problem is I don't like to sweat. It's just like if you're just sitting there and sweating, it sucks. We don't live in a climate where you should be sweating constantly throughout the entire summer. I kind of liken it to like how like people in Florida and down south are like you know 40 degrees, 45 degrees is like the frozen tundra, and for us it's like hoodie weather. It's kind of like I'm sure it's like that for them. It's like it's not too hot up there. But for us, it's awful. It is awful, and the bugs are out, and it's disgusting, and I hate it. So yes, bring on the fall weather. Bring on apple picking, pumpkin spice lattes. They can stay, at Dunkin' for all I care. But we do have a special guest today, and I'm really excited to have him on. I think we threatened to have him on in the second season, and it just kind of never materialized. But finally, we get him on. Owen O'Malley, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you guys?
Just I think you kind of heard it. Tyson's over his kidney stone. Sam is just sitting there handsome, and I've been having a rough day, but we're gonna get over it on this podcast tonight.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So yeah, let's kick it right off. Let's get right into it. Generally, most people who listen to this show already know that when we do this podcast, we have guests on. We kind of get your origin story, your soccer origin story, because obviously soccer is not necessarily the quote unquote American sport. So it's always interesting to hear how Americans got into soccer, um, and how it got you to where you are now. So we're going to take that journey. But first question is, give us a little bit about your soccer origin story.
Yeah, so I was born in Providence, Rhode Island. Moved down to North Carolina when I was super young. Grew up playing for Castle back in the day, which is now NCFC, North Carolina Football Club. I went to Creighton University. Got drafted ninth overall. I played backtrack a little bit. I played for the Green in 2022, and then went back to Creighton and I got drafted. Went to St. Louis for a year, and then I was in Seattle, and then made my way back to the Green this past summer. And yeah, kind of just seeing where the wind takes me.
Yeah, and I guess just kind of too, what kind of, your first memories of the game, and maybe what do you remember maybe initially kind of drawing you to soccer? Again, obviously in the United States, you got the basketballs, you got the footballs, the baseballs, but what maybe drew you into soccer?
I don't know. For me, it was just I had a ball around me since I was super young. My dad played in college. He played at Villanova. So he kind of just instilled the soccer culture in me since I was super young. Um, he was a United fan, so I'm a United fan, sadly. But no, I grew up just with the ball at my feet, and I love the game so much. So I'm just trying to do that as my job right now. But seeing how the ups and downs are tough. So, but yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I'm sure that there are times where you still feel like you're still processing everything that happened this summer. But, when you came up to Vermont at the start of this summer, what kind of, if anything, felt different, you know, this year as opposed to when you were part of the inaugural season?
I would say the biggest difference was probably just like the vibe around the team, like the hype, I would say, in a sense. Like we were probably getting the best players in the country from all the best colleges in the country, so we knew that our ceiling was super high. And I just think that the coaching staff did an amazing job, and Adam Pfeiffer did an amazing job bringing all these guys in and having an organized year on where I think almost every guy played a significant role in the season. Um, and I just, I watched from afar in the past seasons, and it was just tough. Sometimes you didn't see that, and I just thought every guy was bought in this season, which you saw throughout the playoffs and into the final.
I love that. I love that, a guy who, was part of the inaugural season, and went through the experience of being drafted and, you know, getting into the MLS, and maybe at a younger age than he wanted to, he finds, you know, his footing back in a place where it kind of all started, like your professional soccer journey really started. Um, get your foot right back into that, and I've talked about it on a couple other podcasts, and I've talked about you, and I've talked about Zach, and those folks that have had the experience here in Vermont, and bring that type of a thing to a team that um, didn't necessarily, play in Vermont previously, or understand the culture that we were building, or the type of team that we were building, and maybe thought, hey, we're just here for to keep in shape for the summer. Um, talk to us about what it means to have a leader, a leadership position, and helping these guys to understand what it means to work and live and play in Vermont and for the fans.
Yeah, I think that was like the biggest key on like what I wanted to do when I came into the team. For me, obviously, like it was to for me to get back on track physically and mentally. But I think that starts with, being a pro and, showing on why I should be a pro and helping the guys along the way on showing them why they should also be pros. So I think that we just took it from a super professional standpoint, and I think that helped us throughout the season. Um, yeah, I just think that each guy, like for the leaders, like Zach and Musa, and I guess me, for guys that had been here and that had, experienced what it's like playing for you guys and in front of the fans, I think that we just tried to, help the guy next to us be like, hey, this is what you're going to experience, or this is what it's going to be like. And you have to play for more than just yourself. You have to play for the fans, the community, what Vermont Green stands for. And I think that really shows in the end and why we won, to be honest.
Yeah, and I guess just kind of too, obviously this was kind of Chris Taylor's first season, kind of officially taking over the reins. I guess what was it like to kind of have him as a coach, and maybe where did things differ? His experience as a head coach maybe compared to that first season when he had Adam.
Yeah, I would say like Chris had also been a part of the team since the inaugural season. So I think him, knowing what each year was like as an assistant coach, kind of seeing it not from the outside, but not as like a head coach role. I think when he got into that position, I think it was not more easier for him, but I think he knew what he needed to do for us to be successful. Um, he put a lot of responsibility on us as players and for us to be professionals because he knew that all of us are going to be pros someday or eventually will be in a professional setting. So why not create that type of environment and vibe here at Vermont Green where essentially we should be a professional club. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now, and like I'm always fascinated by this about how um, players from all over the country, all over the world, just kind of find themselves, up here in our tiny, weird little corner of the country. Um, you know, and maybe especially for your second season, it this year, is this something where either Adam Pfeiffer reached out to you about coming and getting back on the team, or was this something where or was this a situation where you kind of reached out to the team to see if you could get a spot on the roster this summer?
Yeah, so I had actually texted Adam probably February, when I was trying to look for a team. And I ended up breaking my foot right around then, so it was tough for me. And then once I was getting back healthy, I reached out to Adam again. I was like, "Hey, is there any way that I could join the team this summer to get back in shape and get fit and to help me get back to where I want to be?" And me, him, and Chris hopped on a Zoom call and chatted for 20, 30 minutes and decided that this was going to be a really good environment for me to be in and to also help the guys along for what I've experienced as a Vermont Green player. And yeah, I think it was just the good mix and the good recipe. I think it just worked out. Yeah.
I really I really love the enthusiasm of somebody who comes back and plays for this team because they know what it means, right?
Mm.
Um, but you know, were there any specific challenges that you felt like you faced coming back? Because that first season it was just like this season, for the fans at least, was kind of a dream season, right? Our first season as supporters, as fans, was, I mean, it was a dream season. We never could have imagined like getting to the playoffs and even winning a game in the playoffs, like a man down. Um, Especially after losing so many important players that first season,
Yeah.
early on in the season. Um, and again, it happened this year. So, like, what were the challenges to kind of navigating that season versus this season?
I think the first season we had a lot of guys and I think we had the talent to do really well in the playoffs. It was kind of new and fresh for everybody. So guys were like, okay, well, I don't want to maybe stay. I want to go back to school early and be with my college team, which, is understandable. Um, so I think the first season, like for me, it was a great experience, and I wanted to stay and play for the coaching staff and for the owners who I have a really really good relationship with. Just because I saw what it means to them, and I think that the first season, some guys and like the local Vermont guys like hung around that year because they knew what it meant for not only them being a part of Vermont, but also just like the community. And I think like over the years, like guys started to realize like, hey, maybe I don't have to go back to school early. Maybe I can stay and play and experience this, especially with what the atmosphere is like um, through the playoffs and everything. I think that guys just decided, hey, I want to stay longer and experience this. And I think once it got to this season and we saw the group that we had, and it it was just like every guy wanted to stay. And even though guys had to go back to school, they still came back to play for us. And I think that just shows that they wanted to be here and to experience this, and we knew that we could do this. So
Yeah, and you've talked about the professionalism and you kind of talked about the talent on the roster, but obviously being able to get to a championship is something that can maybe take a while. Obviously, you enter every match thinking you're going to win, but to imagine winning a championship, that's a culmination of a lot of work. But when was maybe the sense, or the first sense you got this season that maybe something special could happen? Maybe, this could be the squad that kind of, reaches that goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think this maybe sounds a little cliche, but like I think it was from the first training session that we had. I think we saw the group of guys that we had, and we just all were like, okay, this is going to be fun. We're going to experience a lot of things. Some guys are going to play, some guys aren't going to play. And I think that like every guy realized that from the beginning. And I think it was just the mentality part of like, hey, not everyone's going to play every minute of every game, and when you get your opportunity, I think you just have to take it. And I think every teammate, you know, knew that and did that to the best of their ability. Um, so yeah,
And you've been very upfront, kind of in the entirety of this podcast so far, that like this team is probably definitely the best that Vermont has had so far. And, just kind of looking at some of these players, what is it like to be on the field with someone like Julian Labordelou, who is just like a wizard with the ball at his feet? Like, we have been very lucky that we have had some amazing passers of the ball, like yourself, Zach Zenge, Nathan Messer, like people who can just ping the ball all over the place. But like Labordelou has made some passes that like deserve to be seen in a professional environment.
yeah. I would say like when I was playing as a pro, I would say that you see the type of quality that these guys have in the Vermont Green training sessions and games. A lot of these guys will go on and be professional players. Um, I want to say like every guy on any 11 this season will go on and play pro. I think that strongly because they're that good, and they have the mentality of that they want to be a pro. And I think that goes back to like Vermont Green and Adam bringing these players in and saying, "Hey, this is going to be the best environment you can be in during the summer to help you go into your college season the best you can be, the fittest you can be." And I think that helps players go back into their college season and have a great year and end up getting drafted. I think that has a big role. If you're going and playing summer league and staying fit and playing consistent minutes, that's going to help you going into your college season. I think players are starting to realize that, and it can only help you in your soccer career. So USL 2 is a super underrated thing. I feel like, in terms of just the game and the players, and yeah, they're college players, but a lot of these guys are going to go on and be pros. Not only just Vermont Green players, but other players in the league as well. So,
And I'm gonna jump in here real quick and double dip. But how good did it feel to curb stomp Seacoast this year? Seriously, fuck that team. And
yeah,
we have always felt that it really felt like the all the players on this team every single year, everyone has hated that team, and this was finally the year that it really was just a wonderful result every time.
I think like that goes back to like the guys like Zach and Musa and Chris, even like, getting the guys up for that game. Maybe the guys that don't know what that rivalry is like. Um, and I think that like when we played Seacoast and when we played Western Mass, like Chris instilled in the guys that this was the biggest game of the season. Like this is a make or break game, and he informed us in every game because every game is important in USL 2. You can't really lose a game if you want to win your division and host. So you have to be perfect in every aspect. But for Chris and the guys getting up for those big games like Seacoast and Western Mass and throughout the playoffs. I think every guy was up for those games.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying before about how the USL 2 is one of those leagues that is kind of like ripe for the picking for a lot of these top tier college players. Um, I have kind of likened it like a lot of people ask me like, oh, is this a professional team who don't know about the green? They ask me if it's a professional team. Um, you know, I've been asked like what team they're affiliated with, like because people can only think of like minor league type stuff. So I have to
Yeah.
explain it to them. And I always explain it as like it's not like triple A baseball, but it's like double A baseball, right? In that a lot of the developmental players come out of like the single A and double A baseball systems, um, and jump right into the MLB. So I kind of liken it to that so that people can kind of understand what is going on here. We've had a number of players drafted, from the green. We've had a number of players who have made the jump to the USL championship. Um, so I mean, it and USL 1. So I'm not discounting what USL 1 does, but for me, like if we were talking about the structure of USL, I think that the USL 2 really is the jumping off point, and um, you know it and a lot of it is because they're very young players, and they're able to be picked up by some of these bigger teams. Um, so I do always liken it to like double A baseball. But that being said, let's get into talking about like the meat and potatoes of this season. And how excuse me, your play really affected this team. Um, because the entire season, I think mostly the entire season until we got into the Western Mass game at the end of the season, we hadn't been down at all in a game. Um, so when you come into Western Mass thinking we win this game, we win the division, we get probably home playoff match, and a week off, right? So you go
Yeah.
into, I mean, because that is a big deal in this league because games come thick and fast. We always talk about like the festive fixture season, in the Premier League when everything is kind of just like condensed and you have your league games and your tournament games, your Champions League games, all that stuff that come into play. But the USL 2 season is like 14 games squished into like a short summer. So we get into that game against Western Mass and we go down 1-0. We go down 2-0. What's the mentality of the team at that point? And are you looking at coach saying, "Listen, I'm the guy."
I think it's kind of funny because Rob, the goalkeeper coach, like I mean, I was obviously not upset, but like I knew that I could affect the game in some way. So I looked at Rob and I was like, put me in. But it was more as like a joke, you know. And so 5, 10 minutes passes by and then Chris puts me on. So I think that part of it was just kind of funny looking back on it, because Rob had came up to me after the game. Was like, "You told me you put me in. So he told me to put you in," and I was like, "I told you, I told you." But no, I think everybody still believed, and even when we were down, even in the added time, like when Zach scored, I think that we still had belief that we just needed to tie the game. And I think once we got the first goal, I knew that we were going to get the second one.
Yeah, and I guess, when you're put into the game, does Chris Taylor kind of give you any instructions, or is it essentially, like you said, you kind of maybe had that, you were joking, but maybe a little deep down inside, you knew that you
Yeah.
could make a difference? Are you just like, all right, I'm getting put into the game, I just need to make an impact any way I can?
Yeah, I think I got put on at left wing, and I just was like, I need to do whatever I can do to try and affect this game. and whether that was, taking guys on 1v1 or putting the ball in the box or, just sprinting, 50 yards to make a tackle or whatever it was, I was going to do it, just because I wanted to win and I wanted us to experience what it was like to play playoff soccer in Vermont. I knew what was at stake, and deep down inside, like I just had an opportunity and I took it.
Yeah,
I
and
think. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
got to double dip as well too, because there's a vivid moment in my memory. Because obviously you score the goal, and I remember going up, idiot with a cell phone, just trying to get the social media content, and I get like close enough to you, and I just look into your face, and you look like you are on another plane of existence. First off, what do you remember from that moment, and then what was instantly going through your head?
I like Alex had played the ball over the top, and like it's weird because I kind of like put my hand up a little bit. Like Alex and me kind of like made eye contact, but like didn't make eye contact. He was like 50 yards on the other side of the field, and I was just kind of like kick it to me, and he played me the ball, and the ball kind of bounced, right for me, and I just took the touch inside, and once I hit it, I knew I'd scored. Like I just like hit the ball so well. And when I saw it hit the net, it was like tunnel vision. I don't remember anything. Like
It was a
I
walk off home run, is what it was.
yeah, like the next thing I remember was like defending back in our box. Like all the celebrating in that moment was a blur. I remember Mo Ibra saying like he loves me like 5 times, and that's the only like core memory I have from that experience. But no, it was great.
I will tell you because you right after Zach had scored, we were right back down there, and you took a shot that went over the goal. And when you turned around and started to run back, get back in a position to defend, there was a glimmer of like there was like a little smirk on your face, like I got you, you know.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of striker mentality. It's that forward mentality where you know, and I always, because I'm a Tottenham fan, I always like liken it to like when Pedro Porro, ships one way over the top of the goal, and he every single time he has like this little smirk on his face, like I'm gonna get you next time, and it almost seemed like that to myself watching from the stands, um, but yeah, it was crazy because you hit that shot and it was almost like you didn't wait for it to go in before you were turning around and running at us and ripping your shirt off. But it is a core memory for the fans who were there, and the fans who made that bus trip. So while it may not have been a core memory for you, it did create a core memory for us who have been supporting the team and came down to watch you guys play.
I mean, I think just that whole day in itself just like really propelled us to not only obviously get home field advantage, but I think just propelled us into to playoff mode, and we knew that we could do this and we were going to win the whole thing. I think that was the determining factor. Like nobody could beat us. Like whatever you threw at us, we were gonna over overcome it and win no matter what. I just every guy knew that. So
And like, especially being able to have, you were talking about the importance of having home field advantage. You know, it just seemed, like you said, that this whole playoff run was inevitable, especially every single time you guys were attacking the South Stands where the Green Mountain Boys are. It just seemed like there was just an extra boost to every player's game. What is it like as a player to, be able to be in that environment and know that these fans are going to have your back? They are going to be, singing, making noise the entire time. What is it like to actually be a player with that kind of support at home?
For me, it was super reviving. It resurrected me in a way. I was jokingly talking with Brandon Parrish when he first arrived, that because he came later in the season. And, I had just told him, like, because he was kind of in the same situation as me. And I kind of told him, like, hey, like, this is going to revive you as a player. Like, you're going to want to enjoy the game again. You're going to love the game again. Maybe when he was in a tough time in his career, like, it's super uplifting, and the support that you guys give us through the 90 minutes and on is unbelievable. Like, I've played in, professional settings before, and like just having like a community that cares so much, and this tight knit environment that we have at Virtue Field, I think it's unbeatable. Like, and as you could see this season, nobody could beat us at home.
Yeah, and kind of fast forwarding to that championship game, I guess kind of leading up to it, maybe pregame, what have you. Just overall, just what was kind of the vibe like, and what was kind of going through your head? You kind of come in, I imagine, you see that the sheer amount of people that were there for that game. Just what was the atmosphere like, kind of leading up to kickoff that day?
I think it was like really like the next step for like Vermont Green in terms of just like that showed like we are a professional club, even though we're in an amateur, you know, league, I guess. Like that right there showed that Vermont should have a professional soccer team. We have the support, the people want to be there. And I think that, like, when I came into Virtue that day, I was I was like speechless. Like, I was really like, wow, this is insane. Like, people actually love the game. They love Vermont Green. And like, once I saw that, I was like, we're gonna win, no matter what. Like, we weren't gonna let that many people down. We had gone through the whole season, just trying not to let the fans be upset. We were playing for you guys every game, and when we saw that, we were like, we have to come on top.
So I know Sam went to that championship game. Um, I was going to just progress through the playoffs. Obviously, you guys didn't have a problem with Hudson Valley. Um, it looked a little touch and go for a minute, and then like once we scored, boom, it was just like floodgates open. The team that I thought going into the playoffs was going to be the toughest to beat was FC Motown. Um, but I really want to get into like what is the mentality, because you guys get into that PK kickoff versus Dolphin, who were really the team that kind of shut you guys down offensively. They played a really good, like a mid low block defensive game, and really worked you guys hard. Um, so you get into a penalty kickoff, and obviously you're the guy at the anchor position, um, waiting to score that final goal on that PK after Nick makes an amazing save. Um, what is the mentality going into like a PK like that? Because like Laborda Lou, he was kind of like a rock star, type of a personality. Every single picture you see of him now, he's wearing those goddamn glasses. Those.
Him on the chair, whatever
Oh
he's
yeah, yeah,
doing.
yeah. That wasn't planned at all, was it? Um,
No.
but the sunglasses and all that, like he's got that rock star personality. Like when he took his penalty, he rolled the ball in. Like he knew where he was going, and he knew that the keeper was going to move, and he just rolled it right down the middle. When you hit yours, like, what is the mentality going in, and do you know where you're going to put it before you even step up to the spot?
It's funny, backtrack a little bit. Like, I told Chris that I wanted to go fifth, because I knew that Nick was going to make the save and I knew that I was going to score. So I told Chris I wanted to go 5. Wanted to start like Zach and Julian to start off strong, which I thought was good. I mean, we had 5 great PK takers, and all the guys behind us were great PK takers as well. But me and Maxie were standing next to each other in line, and Maxie asked me, "Yo, where are you gonna go?" And I was like, I don't really know yet. And I was like, where are you going to go? And he was like, well, the keeper's trying to make a save. He's going a little early. I'm going to go down the middle. I was like, all right, all right. So, like, I think Alex went next and the keeper went early. And then Maxie went and the keeper went early. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go down the middle. And then Nick made the save. And I was like, okay, the keeper's got to make a decision. He's got to make a save here. So he's probably going to guess right or left. Let me just pass it down the middle. And just pass it down the middle.
I'm gonna say for the record that earlier in the summer my son beat Nick in a PK. So and my son is 13. He's a 13-year-old. So and it led to Nick actually making a trade for him in the camp. So I just want to put that on record. But yeah, I mean, I you know the what goes into a penalty kick situation, especially in a playoff like that. It, I can't imagine what goes through your guys' minds, and how you have to kind of like compartmentalize everything, and just hone in on where you're going to put it, what you're going to do. I can't imagine what that's like for you guys because for us in the stands, it was absolute torture. Um, it was absolute torture. I didn't watch Zach's, but kind of knew that Zach was going to have a tough time because he had played like 3,000 minutes during the season. And this was just like an added like extra time, PK situation. There was a chance he was going to lean back a little bit, but the saves that were made, and even though it was just like individual efforts on those PKs, it was still like a team PK situation, and everybody seemed to pick each other up. And I love that about this team. But I'm gonna let Tyson get a question because I know he's got one.
Well, so in kind of thinking back over the entire course of this postseason for this team, I think that something that we've talked about on this show has been, not just the phenomenal talent, the phenomenal effort by all the players, but the game plan and game management of Chris Taylor. He was able to, you know, make great impact subs with yourself, with Labordalu. I mean, what was this something that he talked to you guys about? Like, hey, come 60 minutes, we're putting on Tetivan. Come 70 minutes, we're putting on Labordalu. And so, for the players who start, like you are going to go and run the opposition into the ground. Was that something that was, was part of the game plan going forward?
I would say yes. Like once we got into playoffs, like we knew that the games were going to be tough. We were playing 2 games within 48 hours of each other, so we knew that we were going to need the legs, and we knew that we had the depth off the bench to do it. So I think once we got to those 2 game weekends, I think our depth and the game plan that Chris Taylor had was just it was unbeatable. We were bringing 3 or 4 guys off the bench that could probably start in the game or play at any other USL2 club. So I think that, having that strength off the bench and, Chris telling the guys in the starting 11, like, give everything you have because we have these guys off the bench. He said throughout the year, I think every game he was like, we have the best bench in the country. We have the best bench in the country because we did. And I think that just helped propelled us to lift the trophies at the end of the season, plural, multiple.
Definitely, definitely. And, kind of, again, getting back to that game, Obviously, a similar hero, at least for Vermont, in terms of Maxi Kissel. Just overall, would love to kind of get your thoughts on him as a player, but just maybe too, maybe seems like he, as people like to say, has that clutch gene with the ability to come through in those moments. Just what stands out about Maxi?
Maxi's a great guy on and off the field. He's a character, but I think he's just a man built for the moment. We talk about like goal scorers and clutch players in sports, and I think Maxi Kissel has to fall under that category. I think the guy is just he's just clutch, and he's gonna maybe foreshadowing here, but he's gonna probably have another moment, this season for Vermont, in some sort of way, in some game that's gonna be the determining factor on if they're gonna win a trophy or not. So, you know, hopefully we see that this year.
So what is your take on and I know we're maybe getting away from it a little bit, but what is your take on like the college game versus the USL2 game? Because for somebody who is like myself, who is like I think 2012 was really the first season I started getting into soccer. And for me, watching the college game through kind of the lens of what UVM has done, and comparing it to the USL2, the game seems quite different. I feel like the USL2 game is controlled, it's calculated, and it seems like the college game to me is a little bit chaotic at times. And I don't know if that's due to the fact that like basically every USL2 team that is successful is like an all-star team, or if it's coaching or what it is. I mean, do you have a read on like because you've played at a high level at Creighton and at Vermont Green? Do you have a read on like the real differences between the leagues, or am I looking at it wrong?
No, I would agree with you. I think that like the gameplay is a lot different. I think USL 2 is more I wouldn't say slower, but maybe calmer, more organized. Um, I mean, like it's comparable because I would say like college season is probably like 2 to 3 months, and so is like the summer season. So like you're playing kind of the same amount of games. We ended up playing what 14 regular season and 5 or 6 postseason. So we played almost 20 games, which is a decent amount of games. And I think that just the style maybe of the coaching is different. Um, like I don't know. Like I would say that the game is super different, because it is. Like I do see a difference from the college game and USL 2, but I really don't know what the determining factor is. Like that was actually a really good question. I really don't know. I think maybe it's just the style of play and like how college coaches maybe just want to win the game, like maybe playing more kickball type, like putting the ball in behind, putting the pressure on the other team, more than like USL 2 is like, okay, we're gonna maybe keep the ball and like actually try and play and score goals instead of just trying to kick the ball and just win games, if that makes sense.
I think it does. I mean, that's kind of the way I read it. I'm like, because and these two guys know I'm a big fan of like a strong midfield. Um, and I love the tiki taka, like pass the ball around type play. I'm a big fan of wingbacks as well, and pushing the action, playing out from the back. Not all the time, but I do appreciate a really good creative midfield, and a defensive midfielder who's going to put in hard tackles at the same time. But like midfield play, I feel is for me is the determining factor. Um, Whereas like what you said with the college game, it's a lot of like shipping the ball over the top and trying to beat a defense. But
Yeah, I would
It,
say maybe like
no,
Tyson,
no, go ahead.
maybe like the college game is more of just like for athletes, like the way that college teams want to play, they have, maybe more like the athletic side than like the quality side. In terms of like USL two, I feel like it might be the other way around. Maybe more quality than like. I mean, some guys are obviously going to be fast, but like they could be fast and have quality. So I mean, just that's another, you know, thing I would say.
And, kind of speaking as someone who has, at this point, a pretty big depth of experience playing in both the college game as well as USL2. I just wondered if you had any thoughts on the college game potentially switching to a much longer, club type calendar where they basically go and come in the fall and play through the winter versus kind of breaking it up into the two separate seasons. Um, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I've kind of seen like the way that they want to break it down. Like, I think they want to play like 6 or 7 games in, the spring, and then have the 6 or 7 games in the fall, and then, have your NCAA tournament. I mean, or I'm sorry, flip it the other way around. You'd play in the fall first, and then play in the spring, and then have your final. Um, I mean, I don't know. Like, I personally think that like they're gonna go away from the college game in the future. I just think that like the professional environment and like kids wanting to just go right from high school, to a pro environment, or like I think like the way that we're developing kids at a much younger age these days is good for the soccer in the US, and I think like the opportunities down the road are there's going to be a lot more for young players. So I think that, yes, for college soccer in the future, that should be the goal. But I think like maybe 10 years down the road, I don't think college soccer is going to exist. I really don't.
Yeah, and it was interesting talking with Chris kind of before the season started, just kind of getting his thoughts on the college game. And obviously, you've seen this kind of shift where, like you said, a lot, especially American-born players are going into academies and getting that start earlier. And now you're just kind of also having some international players come abroad. They're able to get a good education, but also kind of continue their development as a player. And I mean, kind of also touching on your experience in MLS Next Pro. There's lots of talk about it. Be covering the Revs and having attended a MLS Next Pro game. I mean, I can only speak for the Revs experience. Unfortunately, these guys are playing in front of not as great crowds as up in Vermont. Especially you're playing in a Gillette Stadium with about 100 or so people in there. But as someone who with Tacoma, with St. Louis, just what was kind of the environment like for development? A lot of talk is about the quality that exists in that league. Just what was your experience like in MLS Next Pro?
I would say like in Seattle, it was very like tough for me because Seattle would like to produce a lot of young talent and a lot of young academy guys, which is great. And it was tough for me to get on the field. And I think like clubs that are trying to show that they can push younger guys into the MLS environments and into the first team, or I mean into the second team and then into the first team. I think that just shows the I think it just draws more attention to younger players, like, hey, maybe I want to go play for this team, and because they are developing more younger players. Like I think Revs is maybe a residential where they maybe bring academy players in and house them, and then want them to eventually be a next pro player, eventually be in the MLS squad. Um, so yeah.
So, um, I know we're coming probably pretty close to time here, but I do want to get a couple more questions in. The first is, um, so after this experience, um, with it, getting back into the game, having the biggest impact on this club, probably almost of any player that we've had in the 4 seasons. What are your plans for the future? Are you looking for to jump right back into an MLS situation, or are you trying to jump into like anything you can? Are you even planning on staying around or staying as a player, or do you want to get into coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of all over the place right now. I'm training with the Revs too right now, so I've kind of been doing that for the last couple of weeks. Um, and I've just been, trying to find a team, and if nobody wants to, take a chance on me, then I know that I do have Vermont Green to represent and to play for. So I think that like that's not helping me in my career, but it makes me a bit comfortable because I know that like I can still play the game I love for, a beautiful team and place, and a community that really supports me. So I think that like that's comforting to me, as a player, like knowing you can always maybe have a fallback on somewhere to go where people love you and you know treat you with respect, and treat you very very highly, or speak about you very highly. um, so I'm just trying to navigate life at the moment and kind of see where the wind takes me. I mean, my biggest fear is signing for a club and then having to play Vermont Green or something. Like that's like my worst fear. um, so I would love to play Open Cup for Vermont Green, but obviously I would like to play pro, and explore that first. So kind of just seeing where the wind takes me.
Well, I do know that there is a a coach of yours from Vermont Green, Lee Williamson, who would love to have you maybe on his staff over coaching for an Orange team. I'm just saying that because my son plays for that Orange team, so and he gets tortured by Lee on a weekly basis.
I speaking about like Lee and Jed and
Oh, Jed too.
and Ben and Rob, and like the staff and like the owners and everybody like behind the scenes, like Brent and Sam, and there's so many, Spencer, Pat McCormick, like all the interns, like these people work so hard to like make Vermont Green happen that nobody really knows about them. Like nobody like like people don't understand how much work is put behind the scenes. And I think like not a lot of people get love. Like those guys don't get enough love. Like I feel like they put out the social media stuff, and they make Vermont Green. And I think that I just wanted to give them a shout out. There's some people I probably missed, um, but just wanted to say that they're the reason why we lifted trophies this season. So
Yeah, and you also had another iconic experience in that championship game in terms of, after I know you went to the Club 11 bus, handed over the jersey, I believe. First off,
yeah.
what was your reaction when you found out, oh, my jersey just got burned? But also,
Oh,
what was it like
yeah.
to have that experience and you'll be kind of immortalized there, with that jersey living there?
Yeah, so when we were celebrating, like somebody had the flare, or somebody had the, I don't know what you call it, a flare, I guess. And I
No, it was
went,
Tristan's road flare, I think,
yeah,
from the trunk of his car.
I like I like ran under it, and it like got me, and I was like, ah, it kind of hurt. And I looked down, and there's like holes in my shirt. I was like, God damn it! Like this, like that jersey was like the one from Western Mass. Like
Oh.
they were gonna frame it, and like everything, and then I burnt it. So then when I went to the Club 11 bus, I was like, you guys can have it, because it was burnt. And they gave me like a Club 11 jersey, which I thought was pretty cool. We did like a little jersey swap. So
I mean, that's still sick, having a nice little, road flare burn jersey from our Quebecois friends to the north. Um, but talk to me about the Vermont tattoo that you have. Are you getting a star put above it?
I might have to. The guys at the Revs have been giving me shit recently for it. It's kind of been funny. It's been topic of conversation, but no, I just after the first season, I fell in love with Vermont, and it was a special place in my heart. And I think that when I get tattoos, I think I get them for a special meaning. And I think it's funny that I ended up coming back and ended up winning, but just another reason to maybe get another one. So maybe up the fucking green or something like that.
I have inside sources, aka I'm in a Slack group chat. They're getting tattoos, I believe, on the 6th of September, and they would love to have you. I bet.
The
Oh,
entire
no
group is getting
way.
tattoos.
On the 6th? That's 2 Saturdays. I'll be there.
It's in Vermont, in Burlington, so
I'll
I
send
mean,
you the info because a couple of slots just opened up for times. We're having a party and shutting down a tattoo parlor.
oh wow, that's
I'm
awesome.
getting my first.
I I've been coming back to Burlington every weekend. Because I mean, obviously, I haven't been playing with the team, so I've just been training. So I've been just trying to connect, with guys as much as possible. I saw Diego Rived last night, and then I saw Ask Eklund, last week. So just trying to, and saw Brandon Marshall down in Providence, Ian Abbey too. So just trying to like keep the Vermont Green vibe together, keep it strong. So the guys, like Brandon, who is young, would love to come back and play. He's a guy that I would look out for in the Open Cup roster. He'll probably come back and play. So just, like relationships that are going to last a lifetime. Like these guys are really good dudes. And, I just try and keep in touch with them as much as possible.
I was gonna say, is there like a team text thread that's still
Oh, yeah.
going strong? Yeah.
Oh yeah, the boys talk on a consistent basis. I would say like when guys are playing other guys in college games, that's when we kind of get the text messages in the group chat, or like after the game, like everyone giving each other shit, just because we all know it's fun and games at the end. So just I think it just goes to show like the bond that this group had from the beginning of the season. And like guys had got left, come back, guys had left and maybe didn't come back, just but still keeping that bond that we have, I think is huge. I think it's awesome. So
Awesome, man. So we are coming up on time. I just got to do a little bit of housekeeping before I give some final thoughts and send off. We are the United in Green podcast. We're supported very generously by the Blazing Musket. Blazing Musket is a New England soccer website. They cover everybody from our invincible, undefeated USL2 champions, Vermont Green, through Portland Hearts of Pine, Rhode Island FC, Hartford Athletic, who's making a little bit of a run right now, and they also cover the MLS team in New England as well. So you get lots of great content in the free tier, but if you can, please go and subscribe to their paid tier. It doesn't cost a lot, and if you can, you get a lot of extra content through them. You get guys like Sam, our very own Sam Minton. You get Seth Maycomer. You get great photos from our boy Dolan, and just a lot of good content. You get the Blazing Musket podcast, which I happen to be on once a month, doing a New England Soccer Roundtable. It's a fun time. I'm sure Tyson will slot in, or Sam will slot in if they have to. But yeah, do that. But otherwise, you can find United in Green podcast there and on all your favorite podcast platforms. You can find us on YouTube where we stream live. We stream every single one of these live. And just throw in your comments, throw in your questions when you can. Find us on Instagram. Find us on Blue Sky. Um, Outside of that, I'm gonna let let's see, let's roll the dice and let Tyson go first on final thoughts.
So, you know, we've talked a lot about your experiences that you've had up here in Vermont. What is your kind of biggest takeaway that you're going to take from, not only playing for the team, but, just being out in the community, getting to meet people, um, walking around on Church Street, going down to, I think it's on Lake Bomazine where, um,
Yeah, and
yeah,
Patrick and Fernand's dad has a house there. It's beautiful, beautiful
yeah.
place.
And like, what is what's the one big thing that you're going to take away from your time being up here?
I think one of the guys said something to me during the season that like really stuck with me. He said like if you build good relationships in your life, you'll end up living a good and happy life. And I think that I just really tried to work on that this summer with just working on myself first, and I think the soccer piece would like follow. So I think, it's just me trying to build relationships with like the people around me, as close as possible, in the community around me. I think just really like helped me, you know, get to where I want to be. And I think that was just the biggest like learning experience that I had taken away from this season. Just like building relationships with the coaching staff and Adam and you know like all the people off the field and behind the scenes, that like I said don't get enough love, like just engaging with them as much as possible because they put in their own time to do this for everybody else, so I kind of thought about it that in that type of way of okay, I'm doing this, like why not put my energy into everything, while I can. So
Yeah, and Owen, just kind of wrapping up, it was great chatting with you. I love to, you kind of mentioned, getting to show some love to the people who really put in the work and, kind of are behind the scenes. But I'd love to get your thoughts, being there in the training sessions. Who's a player who maybe, didn't get as much playing time as they might have wanted or, just didn't get a chance to show just how great they are as a player? Like, who, when you were training, stood out and was like, oh my God, this player just has, like, absolutely insane talent?
okay, Will saw when he went to Middlebury or goes to Middlebury. This guy is unbelievable soccer player. Like I think the ceiling for him is like through the roof. Like if he wanted to go on and be a professional footballer, he could. I think he just the way he strikes the ball is unreal, and he has a lot of talent, and like he's a guy that obviously didn't play a lot this season, but I think that if he gets the opportunity, he will do super well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Um, I think for my final thoughts, I'm just gonna talk about and maybe ask you about family, um, because I know that from the beginning, your dad has been a supporter of this podcast. He was like one of the earlier adopters of the Instagram and getting likes um and I finally met him in person this year, and I got to meet your mom, your brother, and your brother's going to be playing probably keeper for Vermont Green at some point in his career. That's a big dude. He's a year older than my son. He's like a foot taller. Um,
It's crazy. It's crazy. He's gonna be
um,
taller than me.
what I mean, what? How did your family like shape your experience and bring you to where you're in now?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying earlier, my dad played at Villanova. He, really instilled soccer in me from a young age. My sister's like 2 years younger than me, and she played at Ole Miss in Indiana. She played soccer there, so I think just me and her being competitive from a super young age and growing up in North Carolina, where soccer is a really known thing, and like NCFC is the biggest club in the country. I think just help us propel to where we wanted to be. My sister played U15, U16, U17 national team. Um, she traveled the world, went to Portugal, Spain, all these places to play soccer, and played in college, had a great career. And for me, it's just getting drafted and playing in MLS, and playing for Vermont Green, and just I think just playing for more than myself now is what I've tried to adopt. And my dad's mom passed away recently, so I think just playing for her recently has helped me just be the person and the player I want to be. And so I think family is the biggest piece in the puzzle.
I can say that talking to your dad, when I talked to your dad at Zero Gravity before the final, and your mom, like I can tell you how, and I'm sure they've told you, but like how immensely proud of you they are, and maybe that you wouldn't have been able to be as successful as you are if it had not been for Vermont, and we support you as much as anybody. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know people want to build a trophy um, for a certain UVM player, or build a not a trophy, but build a statue for a certain UVM player. But I think if anybody's going to get a trophy out or a statue outside of Virtue Field, it's going to be Owen O'Malley. Um, for my money, Owen O'Malley made this season and has made this team and this club a better place. So I do want to thank you for everything you've done by coming back and bringing us the joy that we were able to experience in this season.
Thank you, that means a lot.
So yeah, for my other two fellas here, Tyson and Sam, we'll be back next week, hopefully with the gaffer. If he actually makes good on his promise to us in the preseason to come back when we won it all. Um, we'll see how busy he is across the lake. But if not, we'll have some other content for you. But until then, guys, make sure you download, subscribe. Um, United in Green is only good when supported by the fans and by the rest of you guys out there who do it. And make sure you tell all of your Vermont Green friends about us. So until the next time, up the green.
Up the
Up the
green.
green. Thank you
Green.
guys.